All right, so next we're gonna go ahead and go from our animated character and provide some movement abilities. Be able to move them around the screen. And we're gonna do this by using the A WASD controls. Pretty standard stuff. To get started, we're gonna do a couple of different things to set the stage. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create another class. We're going to create a game mode class. It's right there, game mode base, because I like to stick with creativity and all. Game mode, game world. There we go. We'll just game world mode. There we go. We'll call it game world mode. We're really not going to do much in the realm of code in here. It's just basically setting it up. We're going to set it as our default. And again, it will just give us something that we have. It does generate a default one when you create the game, but this is creating it for us and giving us a solid foundation that we can build off of later on. Okay, give it a couple seconds. All right, so what you can see, it did add the CPP and the H file for the game mode that we just created. Like I said, we're not going to use those. We'll leave these up because we will use them. I'll put that to the side for now. And what we're going to do is from here, we're going to start plugging away at some of the things. First thing we're going to do is make a blueprint from our newly created game mode. And we're going to do this by just right clicking on it, create blueprint based off of that. Following the convention, BP underscore. And we're going to just put this, we'll put it in the main content, we'll move it later. All right, so that pulls this up for us. And over here, we're going to find a couple of different things. We're going to find the default pawn, which we're going to come down and select our player. And then we can actually get out of here. We're going to come into settings. And when we're in settings, we're going to go to game modes and maps right here. And we're going to select our game mode here. BP Game World Mod. Perfect. That's good to go there. All right, so now in order to get our character to move around, we've got to be able to, tie into the key press controls. So when we tap W or S or A or D, the character moves around kind of like I'm floating around here. So the first thing we're going to do, again, I like to get everything done in the editor first and then move over to the coding. So the path to do this would be to go to project settings again. I know we're just there, but I'm just trying to show again, more often how to get to there. We're going to come down here to inputs, and then right up on top, we're going to find one that says axis mappings. And we're going to need actually 2 axis mappings, one for forward and one for right. We only do 2. I know you're thinking, well, there's forward and backwards, left and right. It's actually just 2, and then we just use the negative. So you can see there's a scale, a positive and then a negative. So if we have a forward and we assign it, let's see, forward is W, and it has a positive number, well, the opposite is just as true. So if I type in S, come on down here to the S key, and I put a negative in front of it, all of a sudden now S is going to do the reverse. So same thing with right. We're going to add another one, so we have 2. And this is going to be D. And that's the positive. A will be the negative. And at the end of it, that's what you should have, WASD, and we're ready to go to the next step, which is the actual coding. So the code that we're going to be doing is actually attached to the player character. So what we'll do is we'll just save this for now. Bring our code back over here, and we're going to start with the header file. In the header file, there's a couple of things we got to take care of. Primarily, it is just with functions. So we're going to create a couple functions. We're going to call it this section character movement components or controls. All right, so here we're going to have our methods that are going to handle our movement from forward and backward and from right to left. So what we're going to do is start with the forward method. So, like I said, void forward with the parameter of float value will handle our forward and backward movements. And void right with the same parameter value of float will handle our left and right movements. Okay, so now we're going to go get ready to go over to the CPP file and do the editing, but you'll notice that I have a couple of squiggly lines, and it's just telling us that it's not defined. Neither one of these have been defined yet. There's a shortcut to get us started. So what it means is over here, it can't find the actual methods. So we can type it all in and get them started, or we can just right click, quick actions, and create definition. And you can see this is literally what's in the CPP file now. It kind of gives us the framework. And do that for the right one as well. You can edit right from here. I prefer just to go right over to it and see it and take care of it that way. Okay, so now that we're in the CPP file, there's going to be a couple of headers we have to include. Components, input components will be the first one. And game framework / floating pawn movement will be the second one. Okay, so from here, we can actually go to, well, you know what? I'm going to start by doing the methods that we just created. So we're going to come down here into forward, and we're going to type in, we're going to do a check just to see if the controller and value are both true. Then we want to do something. And this something, of course, is going to end up being moving our character forward or backward based on whatever the value is that was passed to it. We're working with 3D space, so everything's in vectors. So an F vector, we're going to create one, and we're going to call it, well, you know what? We'll make it universal, and we'll call it direction. And once we get that, we're going to add it to our movement input, which we're going to basically adds 2 vectors. So we're going to add our direction vector we just got to our value. And that'll move our character either forward or backwards based off of those parameters. Likewise, our right movements will be the same, except for we're going to change this forward to right. And really, that is the only difference between these two methods. Okay, so if we were to start it right now, it wouldn't know what to do because we haven't bound anything yet. We set up the mappings so we could tap into the bindings, but we haven't bound our code to Unreal Engine. To do that, we're going to come back up to set up player input component. And this is the method that handles all of that, the bindings and everything like that. So I'm going to just create a section here, and we're going to just label it character binding. All right, so we're going to tap into the method bind axis, and it's going to take up a couple parameters. The first one, as you can see, there's the name of the axis. So this is going to be for forward, and that's what we labeled it. The spelling has to be exact. The next one is just asking for which class object, and we're talking about this one. And then based off of those two, what is the action that we want to have happen? In this case, we're going to call our forward method. So a player, or I should say a character, and now that we have the foundation, the right is the same. We just got to change two things, this and that. And from there, believe it or not, if everything goes well, I'm going to do Control-Shift+B to build the project. Hopefully I get no errors. I got errors. All right, rookie mistake. I forgot the ampersands. So now, do that all over again. And we have a build that we can use. So that being said, if I were to play this now, notice the one I dragged in is still there. And now I am within one. This is why you see all the clipping. But if I tap into it, I now have movement controls. And the reason why you see the one out there while I'm still another one is because of that rule we did with the game mode. By saying the default player is our character, it's going to create that character for us. If I were to take it out, then I would be kind of floating and still not having possession. And I'll show you that, just so we're on the same page. So if I come back in here and I undo the default player character, I come back and push play. Now it doesn't put me to anybody. I'm just kind of like doing wonky things that it doesn't know, right? It just doesn't know. Like, what did I just do? So we'll set that back. And there I am again. All right, so there's our movement controls with WASD, and that's a wrap.